Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to the top 10 most hated states in the United States. It's a very strong way to put it, and I know with these videos, people say to take this guy's channel with a pinch of salt, and I do know that because I have reacted to him for quite a long time, and I know he's very straight to the point and almost sort of over the top with what he says. I enjoy his content, but I just know for some people it probably does piss them off a bit. But what I've also found with these types of videos, not necessarily the most hated states, but maybe like the US's poorest states or states that struggle, is some of those states are the states that I enjoy reacting to most and like learning about most, whether it's the history or just things about the states that I just feel like I would love to go and visit those states, maybe more so than some of the states that people typically visit, just because of what I see. Obviously, you're going to have states that are probably on this list that are hated for reasons like historical reasons, or reasons like I guess maybe Florida would be here because a lot of the stories in Florida, like Florida Man for example, they're funny, but I guess that just makes people hate them as well. California will probably be here because it's just a very controversial state in many ways. Some people love it, some people hate it. Probably the major states, to be fair, so California, New York, Texas, Florida. I assume maybe they'll just be here because they're just the most well-known states, but we're going to see, hopefully going to enjoy. And if you're from one of these states, let me know why this may be the case or why it's not the case. Also, California, I feel like will be here because a lot of Californians move to other states because of the insane pricing in California, which then leads to Californians just being disliked throughout other states as well, because I guess they raise the prices in other states that they move to. But yeah, we're going to check this out, and yeah, let me know your thoughts on this after it's done, and let's jump into this reaction.
What are the most hated states in the US and why? We asked this question in a survey and we received over 3,000 responses. We didn't give them any other information other than saying that they could leave a message if they wanted. And oh boy did they, those got spicy. So we will look at the states, the votes they got for the most hated, and go over why people say they hate these states. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look.
Alabama.
Number 10, Alabama. Hey, why not hate on Alabama? Outside of Huntsville, pretty much the rest of this state kind of sucks.
This is what I mean. Pinch of salt. I'm taking it with a pinch of salt. This guy just says stuff to try and piss people off. If you've not got like maybe not necessarily thick skin, because he's not just saying stuff directly to a person, but he's just slamming this whole state for no reason.
So I get this one completely. They do have some nice small towns, I'll give them that. And they know how to throw a party.
This is Alabama, by the way. This place looks beautiful. I thought this was Florida, I can't lie. Damn.
People love to have a good drink and a good time and watch some football. Alabama is often criticized for its extreme weather. They got tornadoes, they got summer heat, it gets brutal, humidity, all that good stuff. They're also criticized for their poor education and their subpar healthcare systems. Again, when it comes to healthcare, I say this all the time, it's normally a matter of access. Not that the doctors or the hospitals suck, it's usually they don't have enough of either. Until you get to Alabama. The state ranked low in healthcare quality and accessibility. The poor educational outcomes and underfunded schools affect the state's attractiveness to just about anyone.
But why does this make the state hated? If anything, this makes me feel bad for people in the state if this truly is the case. I wouldn't hate the state because of this. So I don't know, maybe this survey was done a bit wrong. Maybe it's just people saying states they wouldn't move to or stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I wouldn't say that's a reason to hate a state at all.
They also have a history and ongoing social issues, including racial tensions and civil.
So when I said history before, I feel like that's a reason for a lot of these states, which I do understand to a degree. I mean, I'm not going to say that's going to be a reason because it's a completely different world we're in now, but I do get that because of the links and history and stuff. So I assume with that, maybe some other southern states would be in this list. Although I don't know which ones will be.
Rights challenges. Now most of that, or I should say a lot of it, and when the spotlight really was on Alabama, was back in the 1950s and 60s. It's hard to shake that. Alabama also has one of the highest poverty rates in the nation. Their strong college football culture can be overwhelming for most, so you'll basically see a lot of Crimson Tide pride everywhere you go. One person said moving to Alabama is a sign to your loved ones that you've given up on life. Alabama got 67 votes for the most hated state.
Damn. Did he say he asked 3,000 people? And number 10 is 67 votes. So it's going to get very high. Okay, West Virginia. Why is West Virginia here?
Number 9, West Virginia. Now, this one I don't agree with. West Virginia has a lot of problems, but they also have a lot of wonderful things. One, they lead the country in poverty. It's like they're always jockeying for position with Mississippi for the absolute worst. But this is a state that is known for its economic struggles and a declining population. West Virginia is often viewed negatively due to the high poverty rates and the lack of economic opportunities. West Virginia is also a state that ranks really low when it comes to...
See, the thing is with West Virginia, in terms of the scenery, I don't think I've seen many states come close to it. It's unreal. Like, it just stands out above so many other states with just the insane scenery. It's just a shame that a lot of people struggle here because of, I guess, the opportunities of the past and stuff like that, and the businesses moving, and I guess just jobs changing over time and all that kind of stuff.
All the health metrics. I mean, they've got a really high rate of obesity and they've got a lot of chain smokers. On top of that, they were hit the absolute hardest when it came to the opioid crisis, with high rates of addiction and overdose deaths. There's a lot of families where grandparents are raising their kids because their parents are in rehab or in jail or whatever because of opioids. One person said, great people to get to know in West Virginia. Stay out of the hollers and never trust West Virginia government. From dog catcher to governor. West Virginia got 69 votes.
At least he got a cool number. I'm joking. 16. I'm so immature, man. I'm 23. Just grow up, man.
Number 8, Kentucky. Yep, the Bluegrass State makes it in at number 8. And
the Bluegrass State. I've never heard of it called that before.
You know, I don't think, in my opinion at least, there's not much to hate about Kentucky. They just kind of stay out of the way, in my opinion. But at least 73 people said that ain't it. Kentucky faces criticism for its high poverty rates, poor health care, and education system that kind of sucks until you get to the college level, and they got some pretty serious colleges. The state's strong association with certain cultural stereotypes and its economic struggles also contribute to a low ranking in favorability, meaning people don't want to live there. Again, this is another state that has high rates of obesity and smoke-related diseases. Kentucky is one of the states that have the lowest educational attainment, meaning not a lot of people get out of high school with a piece of paper, and that's because a lot of their schools are underfunded. I'm sure they have some wonderful teachers and all that. It's just the government is dropping the ball and not funding these schools. One man said, I lived the 4 my this guy's a mess. I lived for my first 33. I think he's trying to say, I lived my first 33 years in Kentucky, and I've heard every date my cousin joke out there. These jokes aren't far from the reality of Kentucky. Kentucky got 73 votes. Number 7, Michigan. Michigan really gets a bad reputation for Detroit.
Yeah, that's probably why it's here. I'm not really surprised because when I think of Michigan, I feel like... I think of Detroit, Flint, like the story of Flint. When I first heard about that, it's just one of those things that is stuck with me, like a crazy thing to happen in this day and age in a country like the US and the Flint water disaster or whatever you want to call it. So when I just think of Michigan, I just think of like cities that are just struggling big time. Which is a shame because I feel like probably 50 years back, this would have been the opposite sort of opinion, but...
Flint and the failing, or at least the exit of the auto industry there. And yes, don't bother telling me there are still auto manufacturing jobs in Michigan, just nothing like it was in the heyday of the 1960s, 70s, and even into the 80s a little bit. Some of those jobs are coming back, and Detroit is getting better, but people still have that image of this state in their head. A lot of the people that left comments said a lot about the weather, and the weather was just dragging them down. It's a very cold state, and their winters can be brutal. In the summer, you're just covered with mosquitoes. That's how it is in Michigan. Jeez. They got too much water, and when the heat comes out, so do mosquitoes. But cities like Detroit have large areas of abandoned buildings, and the infrastructure is in disrepair, and that's the images people see of this state. And then, of course, we could go on for an hour on the Flint water crisis, but we've talked about that at length, just like everyone else has on the internet. One person said, someday Michigan will be great again. Right now, it's far from it, and I'll probably have to live to 150 years old to actually see this happen. Michigan got 88 votes.
The votes are getting higher and higher. Here we go. I don't get Texas being here. Other big states, I can maybe hear opinions here and there. I just feel like Texas is a place that is really thriving at the moment. So I'm confused as to why it would be in this list. I guess just because it's a big state, but we're going to see.
Number 6, Texas. This one surprised me. There's people out there that hate Texas. I know a couple people that have moved to Texas from California. They hate it, but they're there for work and they really can't leave without having to find another job. So why do people hate Texas? Texas is often criticized for its extreme weather, especially the scorching heat, and its bold and sometimes brash cultural attitudes. Texas is prone to hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods, which can cause significant damage and disruption, which makes a lot of people dislike living there. Now, is that Texas's fault? No. I mean, every place gets its own weather, but sometimes people that move there for a while and they get a couple too many summers under their belt in Texas and maybe see a hurricane or two, they start to hate the state and leave. The state's political climate and issues with healthcare and the education system also plays a role in its unpopularity. Now, that being said, Texas is still a very popular state. This is just the opinion of some people. One opinion said, it didn't used to suck. The politics are toxic in this state, and I can't stand talking to anyone. I moved to New Mexico for a better life, free of people talking about politics like it means something or it's real. Pretty heavy. 154 people said they hated Texas. Number 5, Florida. When one of the most notable things that your state has to offer is stories about Florida man.
That's literally the first thing I said. I knew Florida would be here. I love hearing about Florida. I feel like me going to Florida, it's one of those places that it's a great holiday destination because it's got so many different things and the weather can be perfect. Like, you can't probably find many other places that will have some of the best weather like Florida, because it's just like the Caribbean on mainland US, on the mainland US. So they're the pros, but then the stories that you hear from Florida man, not stories about Florida man. I just said man after. It could probably be quite a lot to take in, and I guess people hearing it from the outside in probably just don't like it. I don't know.
You gotta expect a little eye rolling. There's other things, though, that make people hate living in Florida or just hate the state. Despite being a popular vacation spot, Florida is disliked for its humid, hurricane-prone weather, political controversies, and high crime rate in certain areas. The state's unique and sometimes bizarre stories...
So white. This is going to be really stupid, but I went to Malta about a week and a half ago, and me and my girlfriend noticed the buildings are just white. It's so white. I assume it's because the heat of the place. It wouldn't make sense to have darker buildings because it would probably just make it feel somewhat warmer. Obviously, white, I guess, just doesn't reflect the sun or absorb the sun as much, so it gives it a cooler sort of look. But is that the case? Like, why a lot of really, really hot cities have white buildings, especially closer to the beach as well? Coastal warm cities or coastal hot cities, they seem to always just be very white. I guess it's just to do with the sun reflecting or the sun absorption or whatever it is. Maybe it keeps the actual buildings, the people inside the buildings, colder as well. That's probably it, actually. There we go. I've cracked the code. It's just to keep the residents of the buildings colder, I guess. Not colder, just not from getting cooked in their own homes.
Also add to its negative reputation. Some parts of Florida have higher crime rates, which can deter potential residents, or they leave because of the crime rate. The state is often at the center of national political controversies, which really divide the state. But one of the major turnoffs is the overcrowded tourist destination, which in turn impact the quality of life for its residents. One person said about Florida, "We need new people running this state. I don't care what party they're from. Hell, I'd be happy with a bag of potato chip as I'd be happy with a bag of potato chips as governor." 166.
Why did he leave that in? I'm so confused. As a man who stutters on every other word, why would you leave that in?
6 people voted Florida the most hated state.
California, number
Number
4.
4, California. First off, I know a lot of you were really expecting it to be number 1.
Me.
You know, people are flooding out, you hear all the political stories, but you've got to remember, there's a lot to like about California. Longtime residents who aren't leaving, they will say, yeah, it's expensive, but it's worth it.
There's a reason why it's expensive kind of thing. If you got the money, I guess this is the place to go, to be honest. That's probably what the rich people will say anyway.
Beautiful weather, great beaches, always something to do. But the current state of the state, like the homeless situation, cost of living, housing prices through the roof, that kind of overshadows all the good to outsiders. To people that live in California, they know it's a pretty good state to live in, if you can afford it. While many are drawn to California for its weather and opportunities, it's also hated for its high cost of living, overcrowded, and frequent natural disasters like wildfires and earthquakes. I know a girl that lost her new house like 4 years ago up in the Bay Area from some fire they had there. The state's politics and lifestyle can also be polarizing, to say the least. And let's not forget
these images, though. I mean, these are unreal, aren't they? Although having a home on these cliff edges must be quite scary because cliffs will just fall at any point in time. Damn, this is a cool image though. Where in California is this?
Major cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco that are infamous for their traffic jams and long commutes. That is one reason I hate California. I'll never live there again, and my biggest problem is the traffic. Sure, I could move to a rural place, but yeah, I want to live by the beach if I'm going to live there. One person said about California, I left the entire state of California because of what they let happen to San Francisco. This is one of the most beautiful cities we have in this country, maybe on the continent, and now you look at it, it makes you want to cry. 187 people voted that they hate California the most. Number 3, New York. New York's problems all center around New York City. It's a big state, but if you talk to anyone or you read anything or you do any survey, you start to realize that almost everything that people are responding to is something to do with New York City. But despite the vibrant culture and economic opportunities, New York is often disliked for its high cost of living, rude residents, and intense traffic. New York City is known for its overcrowded public transportation and streets, which can be overwhelming, especially if you're not from a city. The state's reputation for having some of the worst drivers and the highest taxes contribute to its low popularity. Beyond housing, the cost of everyday items and services is significantly higher than many other states, actually most states. And most of that, again, has to do with New York City. Now, one other thing to keep in mind about New York is they have one of the highest state debts in the country. This affects public services and infrastructure along with maintenance. One person said, New York City drags us down. The entire state is not New York City, and most people don't understand that. If it wasn't for New York City, New York would fit right in with New England. 199 people voted for New York.
So the last two, I was actually going to say, well, if New York's in this list because of New York City, then New Jersey's got to be here because of New York City as well. I don't know if it's going to be here because of that, but obviously New York City, a lot of it is in New Jersey as well, so.
Number 2, New Jersey. New Jersey is known for its high cost of living, dense traffic, and industrial areas that basically pollute everything.
But I am very fascinated that this is number 2. I wouldn't have thought of New Jersey being in this list at all.
New Jersey is often criticized for its brash residents and pollution levels. It has also been dubbed the armpit of America due to these factors. The state's dense population and proximity to major cities like New York and Philadelphia lead to severe traffic congestion, especially on the New Jersey Turnpike. I would say the biggest reason a lot of people hate New Jersey is the people, and it's the way they communicate, and they're not terribly rude. I mean, they're very upfront and very brash. Yeah, like I said earlier, that describes them perfectly. And they wave their hands a lot when they talk, and they get a little too close. I watched this linguist guy that he studied communications and all this, and he gave a speech, and that's what he said. That's what's going on in New Jersey. That's their culture. That's the way they are. It's watered down a little bit over the years, but that's still kind of their thing. One person said the best thing to see in New Jersey is D's nuts. Anytime I say anything about New Jersey, someone leaves me an email or they say that on a survey. I don't know what's going on with New Jersey. They're a mess. 221 people voted for New Jersey.
They're a mess.
All right, before we get to detail from or when, on to number 1.
This is Illinois. I guess, yeah. I mean, it's got a major city there. It's one of the major states, I guess, yeah. Fair enough. The weather, I guess, as well. Damn, Illinois #1, though. I was not expecting that.
And number 1, Illinois. There's a lot going on in Illinois, and this one could take a while to unpack. But a lot of it, again, like New York City does to New York, Chicago does to Illinois. But the funny thing is, Chicago's not even their most dangerous city. There's other things that drive people crazy about Illinois. Illinois tops the list primarily due to its high taxes, political corruption, and
I didn't know Illinois had high taxes, to be fair.
significant population decline. People are flooding out of Illinois. Many residents and outsiders view it as an undesirable place to live due to these economic issues. Especially in cities like Chicago, the crime rate is notably high, contributing to the state's negative perception. Illinois has faced significant budget crises and pension liabilities, leading to financial instability that affects public services and infrastructure. They also have really harsh winters, which nobody ever talks about. Just look up Chicago, snow, see how thick it gets. They also have hot, humid summers, which can be uncomfortable for many people. Outside of Chicago, it's an affordable state to live as far as real estate goes, but their taxes are always high and the cost of living overall is just expensive here. It's not how it's supposed to be in a Midwest state. That's why people stay in the Midwest. That's why people move to the Midwest, because it's cheap. And if that's too expensive, you head to the South. One person said, "I hate Illinois. I've lived in Chicago for 3 years and had my car broken into 4 times. Last week, they took the whole car for a change." 277 people voted for Illinois. All right.
Well, there we go. The most hated states in the US. Obviously, this is from a very small group of people. But I lived in 3 states on this list while serving in the military: Alabama, Texas, and Florida. I agree they all deserve to be on the list. My worst, however, was Louisiana. One thing I learned, though, is that money makes a huge difference in any state. The wealthy can generally be happy anywhere. 100%. Toxic politics can ruin the state. I would imagine that most Michigan residents voted Ohio and most Ohio residents voted Michigan. Fair enough. I grew up in California. I don't hate the state, just the rich invaders that took over and drove out the locals. I want to throw something every time I hear unaffordable used to describe Cali. It didn't used to be that way. I'm stuck in Texas now and I hate it here. I really miss scenery and weather that allows for outdoor activities. Damn. That is quite sad when you really think about it. I thought Alabama would have ranked higher, to be honest. Well, there we go. These seem like people that just... The people in the comments seem to be agreeing with this. And New Jersey has one of the highest property taxes. Damn, well, I mean, I guess based off the comment section, people don't seem to necessarily disagree. Why must this be so clickbaity? Oh, I don't know. I'm not reading that. That's a whole ass flipping. Nah, I'm reading that. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this reaction. Let me know your thoughts on this. If you live in these states, let me know if you agree or disagree. If you've lived in these states, same thing. Or I guess if you've traveled to the states, it wouldn't make as much sense because you can't really share your full experience. So when you're traveling to somewhere, it's usually for stuff like exploring and just visiting cities. So you're not really taking it in like how it would be to live somewhere maybe. But I guess if that's the case as well, let me know of that. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.